Hello, I'm John Galante. I'm president of AE Ventures, and I am thrilled to be kicking off the first in a series of webcasts with the fine folks at Zillow New Construction. We're calling it Trendlines 2024. This is episode number 1. Let me start by telling you a little bit about what we're trying to accomplish here. It is really about the information that Zillow commands. They have a wide variety of information assets, so much that it might be difficult to get it all out. So the buckets that I see that I think can be extremely interesting and compelling for home builders and the whole industry are, number one, research reports that are done regularly and with statistical significance, and these give us deep insights into buyer preferences and behaviors. The platform itself, when you operate an online buyer's portal like Zillow, the way the market is interacting with that platform and all the content on that platform is also a great source of information. So the analytics that are telling a story that resonates with some of the research that Zillow's doing on a regular basis. Then I'm talking about Qadra and Scott and the rest of their team. These folks are out and about, and they are collecting the anecdotal information that goes with the data. And then we hope to see some of Zillow's the economics team contributing information over time. So that's a lot. It's a lot of different facets. And what we're trying to do at AE Ventures with Builder Innovator is to take our industry talk show format, to add some perspective, especially with the guests, folks like Jennifer and Tim, who we'll get into, and to take the dense information that is data and try to make it conversational and give it context. Let's take the moment right now, Qadra and Scott, for you to introduce yourselves and provide a little background, especially since you're going to be with us for every episode. So Qadra, why don't you go first?
Sure. Hello, I'm Qadra Evans, Director of Industry Relations and Sales for Zillow New Construction. I have been in the real estate industry for an embarrassing amount of time, 20 plus years, and been with Zillow for about 7.5, and just joined the new construction team about 3 years ago to start industry relations from the ground up.
Scott, how about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, John. And I'd like to give you kudos for pronouncing the last name correctly, Rohrig. So well done to you in the first episode ever.
I'm sure I'll get it wrong in the future.
No, you got it. Qadra and I are a team of two when it comes to industry affairs and industry relations for new construction. She and I have worked together closely for 9 years now, since in my time since being with Zillow, and just came over to the new construction side of things, and just, you know, she and I are really the brand evangelists, bringing products and data and insights. So this is right in our wheelhouse, and we're excited to be here.
Super. So Jen Cooper will be joining us. Jen, tell us about Evolution Marketing and yourself, please.
Hi, everybody. I am Jennifer Cooper. My company is Evolution Marketing. I am the founder and a fractional CMO. I'm former vice president and CMO of several regional builders. And today I offer the same services I did in my executive level roles, but a fraction of the time working with builders that maybe have smaller budgets or just starting to grow their marketing teams. And again, we work with builders across the country and also solution providers. So thank you so much for inviting me to today's call.
And finally, to Mr. Costello.
Well, I'm probably the only one that's actually been a home builder here. I actually have built new homes myself, but I also founded and ran the Home Building Industry Technology and Marketing Consortium for over 20 years. And now, luckily, I get to talk to builders and building products supply companies and distributors about the market and about how to kind of manage the crazy upheaval and dynamic nature of the world that we live in.
So purpose of the session today, we're going to recap some of the key findings of the Zillow New Construction 2024 Consumer Housing Trends Report. And then we'll discuss builder strategies and tactics that respond to those trends. We're going to break it up into 3 major sections. Let's start off with the who. And we'll take the most basic of demographics and look at the age cohorts and the new versus existing home buyer. What I see here is the youngest of buyers being less involved in the new construction market, and I think the meat of this market being that prime spending and earning demographic from an age perspective, from age 30 to somewhere in the 50s, is the dominating group. Tim, I know you've made many presentations about demographics and demographics being destiny, and I cite these a lot at cocktail parties, that like the government can only do so much. It's really about where's that pig in the snake in terms of the demographics. But this is that prime earning and spending cohort that seems more inclined to be spending on new homes. Does that tell us anything? Does that give us any cues as to how builders should respond to where the majority of the buyers are?
This chart hasn't changed much over the decades, right? So it's not like there's some great finding here. The most important finding is that and it's always overrepresented, is that first-time buyers tend to buy used homes. And part of that is because they don't understand just how problematic used homes are. They tend to believe the property brothers that in 30 minutes they can renovate their kitchen and their closet and their bathroom, and two handsome lads are going to come in your house and do a perfect job and leave, right? Later on in life, you realize that that's actually 9 months from hell. It's 3 contractors. Your house is a mess. It costs 3 times more than you think it is. And you don't want that hassle in your life. So that's really, to me, the only thing this chart really has ever told us is that the more you know about real estate, the less inclined you are to buy a used home.
Yeah, these are definitely, if you just look at the prime home ownership years, are these kind of millennials to Gen X and younger boomers. And so we're already buying houses. We might have a little bit more experience with that, but this is where the population is. And millennials is it's a gigantic generation. There's like 46 million millennials. So if you just look at that number alone, obviously those numbers are going to balloon right up when they're in the home buying market.
Nothing here too surprising on my side either. If anything, and this may be some of what Tim talks to, what you follow, John, is really how this chart's going to morph in the future. I think we're going to see more change in the future. And I think while today's buyers and the younger generations maybe have purchased more of the property brothers-esque, home buyer journey, more of them, the newer generation, are looking for health and wellness and technology, which I think could start to be a little bit of a turning factor if more builders look to how they innovate their product. So I think we could start to see that change a little bit, but otherwise, no other real concerns.
So I'll just throw this one out. In prime earning and spending years, isn't this also the prime lack of time years as well? Because you're mid-career, because you have a family and all the time that's stolen by caring for children. I mean, I don't know whether that's a general characteristic, regardless of whether this was the 40s, 50s, 60s, or now. This time-strapped nature of this time of life is maybe something that builders could turn to for inspiration on how they're marketing or what they're marketing.
It's kind of trifecta, right? It's your prime spending is around between 40 and 50 years old, in that decade. But you also probably have already owned a home and you know how hard it is to work on homes. So when those things come to bear, that you need more space or you need a different situation, you have the money, you don't have the time, and you have the experience to realize the value of what a new home brings. And that's why they overrepresent in new home purchases. I think builders could do a better job speaking to that. I always find it's easier to speak to what people believe than to convince them to believe something new. And if we could then craft our marketing to catch what they already understand and believe, we'd be more effective at it.
And I think that brings up a good point, because we'll talk about this maybe a little bit later if we talk about pets and kids and how that factors into some of the marketing. But why not market to those people who are in that time period in their lives, Tim, like you said? I think about, I didn't know what was out there when we were in that time. We were just surviving as we raised our kids. But then as we gained a little equity, I didn't know what was out there. And part of that could be my realtor's, fault for lack of education, could be the builders not reaching out to me and really touching me where I need to be educated.
Yeah, I think the idea of a new home as a time saver versus an existing home is an interesting one. We talked about maintenance costs, we've talked about energy efficiency, et cetera, but we haven't addressed this precious time issue, I don't think, with a lot of focus. Maybe you have, Jen, with some of your clients, but it's certainly out there.
Well, they're capitalizing on it. Some of them are capitalizing on it. When you think about buyers don't want to really remove choice. They want choice, but we're seeing more builders look at ways that they can make collections. All of that is for some efficiencies, obviously, on their side. There's also the marketability of, we've come in and helped take out some of the decision making and really refine, great home, great value in these packages. So there's ways to exhaust, some of those opportunities to save time for sure.
Okay, let's look at educational attainment. Slightly more or substantially more educationally attained buyer on the new construction side of things versus existing.
I think historically, new construction it's really, the tides have kind of shifted in this last few years, but historically new construction has been significantly higher priced than used homes. And so, and you would kind of correlate the higher education with higher paying jobs that can then afford a higher priced home. And so that's kind of what I take away from this, is maybe there's still some of that lingering effect.
No, I think Qadra's nailed it. I think it's really just a correlation to income levels and affordability.
And I think what's interesting is that perception is still out there that new construction still has this premium compared to a used home. But what we've found, and Zillow's actually published some recent articles, is that per square foot, new construction on a national basis is now less than a resale home. And so we're making huge strides in the new construction industry, but we're not doing a very good job of getting the message out that, yeah, this is definitely a viable option for you as you're out on that home journey. It's not so unattainable as it has been in the past.
Buying approach is the way I framed this question, which is about whether folks are buying solo or with a spouse partner or any sort of co-buyer. Anything stand out here on this one? We've got more co-buying on the new home side of things at any level than versus the existing home buy. I guess that's the younger buying demographic on the first timer speaking again.
I think it also could maybe speak to affordability. We're seeing a trend where some buyers reported back to us that they wanted the ability to rent their house now or in the future as a means of paying that house down or paying that payment down.
We also have, Zillow actually has a commercial right now. And so this is maybe where some of the work that you're doing just in marketing to different generations is going to come into play, because the younger generations are the ones that don't necessarily have the income or the savings to afford a new home. And so they're getting creative and they're finding a roommate that also has some buying power, and they're combining buying powers. And that makes you able to buy something now. And it might not look like it traditionally has, but it's definitely a solution that we're starting to see is very viable.
Yeah. I do think playing off of the new generational norms, we're an Uber generation. We're fine with sharing. So some of that cohabitating is just a new way of trying to afford things. And really the message about how finding the right, lending partner and the right opportunity to start investing in yourself. We can have conversations around investing for your future. I don't see that word investment played off in the way that it could be on the, on the single family home side. You'll hear it more on the resale and in the investment market, but we could really be infiltrating that into the younger generation to thoughtfully be thinking about how they can be investing in their future. And
I titled this one Interspecies Cohabitation. A lot of talk about this, the whole pet thing, and it's in the multifamily rental world as well as in the new construction world. I guess this is the revenge of the therapy puppies. People are more emotionally attached to their animals than to other human beings. Who wants to grab this one?
Look, we've been talking about this for a long time. Boomers are replacing their children who moved out with dogs, right? They've got all the money in the world. They're willing to spend, and they're willing to spend a lot in their home because of it. They're willing to spend for entire rooms for their pets, washing stations. If you're a builder, you got to start thinking about this, and you got to start creating these kinds of features. This is a great opportunity to differentiate between the used products out there by creating, dog or pet specific features in a home. Millennials all bought them, during the pandemic. Boomers are buying them because their children are all leaving. Bottom line is we got a lot of pets, and we're willing to spend a ton of money on them.
And have some fun when it comes to marketing. What more fun could you have than marketing pet-friendly features? I mean, let's just give it some personality and some oomph, and you're going to speak to people because we all love our pets just as much, if not more, than kids.
I knew you were going to say that. And I think the stat could be even higher in Colorado. You think, we heard that about 2/3 of people reported having a dog. I think in Colorado, that could even be higher. But yeah, you're exactly right, Tim. We need to lean into this when it comes to marketing because they make such a big decision. And to Qadra's point, a lot of people consider their pet's family and they factor pretty heavily in their purchasing decisions. So yeah, if you have that washing station, which would be fantastic in this existing home that I have now, my goodness, that would sway me.
And builders have done some great things. I've seen them take the little triangle space underneath stairways and create kind of hidden dog bedrooms. Obviously the mudroom area that also has a dog washing station or a laundry room that has a combination laundry dog washing combo. So you're using the same space.
But can somebody tell me what the special things are to be done for cats?
We actually just remodeled our whole second floor, and the request that I had was get creative. I want a hidden litter box. And so we actually have under a shower, a bench in a shower. On the outside of the shower, we have a sliding drawer that has the litter box in it. That's our pet-friendly feature in my 1905 house.
What kind of homes on which lots do they prefer to buy? New versus used preference. This is one that we could talk about for a while, I think.
We know that 42% of buyers are searching for only new construction. That's all they want. That's what they start out looking for. But there's 58% that might not know. And we've seen this kind of wacky market over the last few years where there haven't been any resale homes to choose from. And so new construction might be a default, or maybe we're starting to be able to sway some people because we've got awesome technology that we can put on listings when people are shopping online that kind of gives them a feel for the house that they've never had before. And so we've seen the trend just slowly kind of tick up year after year of the number of buyers that really want new construction.
We've seen this for decades now, that a very large portion of buyers at least will consider new homes. And yet traditionally new home market share is somewhere between 14 and 19%. Now we've been way over that during the, kind of this pandemic hangover because there is an inventory of used homes. But we've always said with about half the market kind of willing to buy a new home and only 14% of the market buying a new home, our marketing isn't doing a very good job. We're basically losing 3 out of 4 people that want to buy a new home. That's pretty ineffective marketing for an industry.
Isn't the marketing, is it that we're not reaching them as they start their search, or is it the conversion and the selling? I mean, do we get them to the consideration phase and lose them deeper in the selling cycle, or do we not get enough of them in that searching consideration phase?
I see Jen starting to twitch when we say it's marketing full.
Yeah, I'm like, when you say marketing, I'm ready to have a conversation on that. I think for the most part that this effort, this comes from sales and it comes from online. So online, are you giving enough of the buyer the tools to explore? They don't know what they don't know. So a finished home is most likely today, with most sophisticated agents, going to have a Matterport. You're going to have a photo of every room finished, every room hopefully staged decent enough for photographs. You're going to get more detail. You have a lot of new home construction. They're putting low quality renderings up. They're putting homes that are a white box that have no furniture. So immediately those things will distract potentially to go to new homes. So just feel like I can see more. The second half of that, this is a marketing sales conversation, is how are you courting and building a relationship with the buyer? How are you quantifying? Are you looking at new versus used? Why? And then on the reverse of that, we are not as an industry selling more of the things that are just baked into the home, down to how the home is built with, is the quality of wood, the quality of insulation, the fact you have a threshold, right? Most buyers don't even know what the threshold is in a home and that it adjusts and how air leaks. There are some really simple things that we can sell the whole envelope and package of a home down to very 101 education that we don't do. So part of it's discovery, and a big part of it is how are you showing up at first blush? That's my soapbox in 30 seconds.
So Qadra and Scott, how are builders showing up at first blush on the Zillow platform these days? Because we talked about this 3 years ago. I think it was the average used home had 35 images. The average new home had 3. I mean, are we doing better? Have we gotten up to averaging 10 images for new home listings on Zillow, or what?
Yeah, so I mean, the big builders have these resources in play, and they put this media on every single listing. The smaller builders, that's why Scott and I have jobs. We've got to go get to these smaller builders and help them understand the impact.
Yeah, I've characterized it as unconditional surrender at the point of attack, right? Like if we just we're not going to show up in the first places where the most people search, then we're not going to be on the consideration list. So I hope we are doing a better job, and I hope we can do an even better job.
John, I think there needs to be some major kind of self-reflection and consideration of this, though, because you're sitting here, think about the proposition. 40% of the market prefers to buy your product. 2/3 of the market is willing to consider your product. And your product on a national basis sells for less than the alternative product. And yet, traditionally, you lose 3 out of 4 of those people that came into the buying process preferring you. That's a pretty damning set of statistics. Something is really wrong in the marketing and the sales process of the new home industry. Marketing is supposed to take your 39% that prefer you to begin with and make your market share 55%, because the marketing convinced a whole bunch of more people to actually join the bandwagon, not turn 75% of them off. And that's the challenge. We're not speaking to the buyers. And during that sales through, and Jennifer mentioned some of this, we're not solving some of the problems that new homes have, which is I can't walk through it. I can't see it. It hasn't been built. I'm afraid of what it might look like. I fear making 3,000 or 250,000 design and decorating decisions in the purchase of a new home. How do you simplify that? How do you give people confidence? How do you let the 39% of the people that say they want to buy your home actually just buy your home? That alone with zero marketing would be a huge market share lift of the home industry.
So yeah, we need to dig into the what's distracting them, or what is it? Where's the gap? Where are they falling off? Is it that they're not getting the right information? Are they not getting nurtured at the right time? Are they not getting the right education? There's something falling off. I mean, that deserves just, a big study by itself.
So this is about a question about a new subdivision or community or an existing community. I headline this infill. That might not be the right headline for it. It might be more of a perception there. What are any thoughts on the insights to be gleaned from this trend line?
I just think about the trends that we're seeing. When we were having this pandemic, what was that? Gosh, now 4 years ago, feels like a lifetime ago. People were moving away from very urban areas to more rural areas. And now we're seeing people start to slowly migrate back as, the work from home starts to go away from some employers. And so now what we're seeing is that these people are actually choosing and opting to choose, these homes in these existing communities versus, brand new communities.
Changes on the spec home versus built to order with 2 flavors of built to order. One where the home has been started already and there's some opportunity for personalization and customization, and then built from scratch, built to order.
That's kind of tied in actually to the next slide, I think it is, that talks about urgency. And the two things, kind of work together. Many buyers have urgency, either a lot of urgency or some urgency in their purchase decision. And you see that reflected in the propensity to buy homes that are either finished or they are almost finished, meaning they'll be completed in the next next 30 days, which is, still a pretty short period of time to transact a home. And I think for the builders, the big issue here, it means that you have to build inventory. And, that's where we fight every tendency we have as a home builder. When we have high interest rates, we think about, we should reduce our inventory, right? When you have a dynamic market, you're worried about, is the Fed going to have a soft landing, a hard landing, bumpy landing, to this landing, to that? Let's pull back on inventory. The problem you have is when you pull back on inventory, that means all of these buyers that preferred new, because we already know they prefer new, they now need a spec home and you don't have spec homes. So you're out of the selection process. So this is one of the reasons why 39% prefer new, but 39% don't buy new. So builders are going to have to buy spec homes. They got to get over their hesitance in this dynamic environment, in high interest rate environment, and build spec homes so that people can buy them.
You really have to kind of meet such a variety of needs as a builder, because sometimes those people that are looking for new construction only, they kind of have an expectation already that, I might be building something from the ground up and I want to customize it completely. But then you've got this whole subset of buyers that are just what you said. They might be looking more urgently, or maybe they just don't want to deal with all the choices that in a fully custom home or even a partially custom home. And so you, as a builder, if you've got kind of a variety pack, a menu to choose from, you're going to vote a lot better because you're meeting all the different needs. Then you can keep the 39% of new construction buyers buying.
I can tell you what my challenge is as a marketer right now. I've got a lot of inventory and I don't have a lot of urgency in the market. And, a lot of the data, some of which, we'll continue to talk about, is saying there's just this more relaxed buyer mindset. So the builders are bringing the inventory all day long, but when you're relaxed, it's challenging to create the urgency. So then it's just making sure you're building for the right target market in your area for the product. So if I'm going to try to create urgency around a price, I'm going to try to create urgency around a unique floor plan or unique land position. Those are the things that I'm kind of hungry for right now when I'm working with my builders, is to figure out where we can create that urgency. So as you're building the spec inventory, know what you're going to be able to solve on that urgency equation, because it's a challenge right now for marketers.
So we go right to this slide on urgency of occupancy. And this is not shown over time. It's just broken out by three different types of buyers: new construction and existing homes. And the prospective buyer, which I'm not clear what that label is, Qadra and Scott, whether that's a shopper who didn't buy a home. The existing home buyer definitely has a bias towards the urgency side of things for sure. And speaking to Tim's question on are we building enough inventory, which then becomes a market by market determination according to Jennifer's caveats as well. So there are a lot of factors to sort through for builders, right? Like there's the knee-jerk response to the interest rates, which might be it's counterintuitive in some cases, but not in every market. So how do we sort all of that out? It's certainly an interesting challenge.
They certainly are better prepared to deal with selling homes in a high interest rate environment than used homes are. So, they have a tremendous advantage. The other thing, though, I think might be interesting about all the spec homes, being bought, about 50% of the market, about almost 2/3 of the homes, almost 3/4 of the homes, I guess, being under construction at some level. This also solves the frustration of buying a new home. I don't have to pick the counter color, and I don't have to pick the 250,000 different permutations of the home. Some designers already done that for me. So it eliminates that hurdle in the market for those buyers that are overwhelmed by the complexity of the new home process. So if you want to bring those buyers into the new home, you have to have finished homes or partially finished homes for them to be able to procure a new home.
And you have to be able to speak to what makes that one buyer, what makes that buyer tick, because it's going to be different than buyer number 2 that's walking through your door, what makes them tick. And so it really, Jen, that's why we need you.
Yeah, you're going to see variability too in demographics. Before it was the 55 plus buyer wanted a lot of choice, and we had all these design centers, and now you're finding more of today's 55 plus buyer. I say today's, right? They're valuing their time, and they're looking for a quality product, and they're maybe more comfortable with some of those collections being curated. So it is morphing. And yeah, some of those more entry level, like again, they don't know what they don't know. So if we can talk about that education and that easy button, definitely have to put more steam and get pedal to the metal on those marketing messages.
Finally, how they are preferring to shop for a new home. The thirst for 3D tours. I wish I had more this is about that disarmament at the point of sale, right? Like images is one thing, but 3D tours is certainly a strong area of interest for the new construction buyer. And even a preference for 3D tours over in-person viewings. That's an interesting data point.
Yeah, I think this is a byproduct of the pandemic that, we really saw this ramp up in 2020, 2021, and it's a trend that just continues to gain steam. It's really affected the way we shop, not only for new homes, but in everything we do, really. But on the flip side of that, I think about, and maybe Qadra knows this statistic better than I do, but how much time it saves you and them, because then when they come into your sales center, they already have a great idea. They've weeded out all those listings that don't have this on there, and they have a really, really good idea in their mind about their floor plan or the home, their future home. And it saves you the time too, and your sales professionals, in having to weed through the options.
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting data point from the platform is if you guys have a search functionality where it's 3D tours only, how often that button is being checked would be an interesting data point.
Yeah, we've got data that we share that's you get 68% more views, 36% more saves on listings that have 3D tours versus those that don't. And so it's really an investment. Think about the eyeballs that you're able to grab by just having this rich media on your listings, and the listings are performing that much better. And I think, Tim, you were talking about first impressions. This is your first impression. This is how you win versus used.
I mean, that's great news for new home building. We've been, we've been beating this drum for over a decade. Collectively, I think as an entire collectively, right? But technology has actually cured one of new home building's biggest obstacles to sale. If you go back 20 years ago, you had this problem that it wasn't built. People had to imagine it. It was hard to imagine. There was a lot of fear and anxiety. But today, the tools are so incredible. They're so amazing. They're so inexpensive. They're so accessible. They're so easy to use. There's no excuse for builders not to have them. And, I know Zillow has presented this data time and time again at conferences that shows if you have it, you get more value, you get more leads, you get more sales. There's just no argument. There's no position a builder can take to repudiate that they need great digital content in their marketing.
Please put it on your listings.
Man,
I have to say, if you have a website, you have to have a 3D tour. The consumer deserves it. You can shop for an outfit. You can shop for a car with 3D technology. Why wouldn't you be able to shop for a $500,000 or more house? Come on.
So the first three here on this long list, and I use I want my MTV lyric here. I want my digital tools. The first three are all dealing with the 3D tours. So the four below here, this is self-guided tours. It's a description of a self-guided tour, which seems to have strong demand. We've talked about floor plans and interactive floor plans, especially being important. It's one of the main ways that buyers disqualify and create a shorter short list is by finding the ones that don't have floor plans that they think would work for them. So that seems to be a big deal. This is the flip side of that. I need to see it in person. I can't just imagine it with a floor plan. And this is an integrated floor plan that has visualizations with the bird's eye, I'm assuming. Anyone want to comment on any of the data points here? Everything is strong.
Yes, unless you're trying to find the 12% of the people that don't care, then you this is table stakes. This whole list is table stakes. It's not which one am I going to pick, which tool am I going to use. You need all of these tools. You need all the tools for every listing on Zillow so that when they land there, when they get there, when they do an incredible job driving all this traffic and all these eyeballs to your property, it's valuable, it's worthwhile, they can do something, they feel fulfilled. They were able to explore to their satisfaction the value of that property.
It really goes into we millennials are kind of responsible for creating this generation of we want personalization, we want tools to do it ourselves.
Ownership. I want to take
yeah,
ownership of their search.
exactly. And so we call it a hybrid approach that we shout it from the rooftops, but it's buyers have never said they want to remove human beings from the transaction ever. What they want is tools so that they can figure out on their own and on their own timeline what's right for them. And then when they're ready, they get to raise their hands and have a much better qualified conversation with that professional on the other end to complete the transaction hand in hand with a human being.
And I would go around the horn and ask for highlights, but we're almost out of time. I'm going to say the highlight for me was the slide that talks about the preference and how much of an opportunity we have based on preference and openness. And we need to seize that opportunity by going after more buyers and giving them the tool sets that they want. This is the slide with all of the email addresses of the smart people you heard speak today. There's also a link to the research report that we referenced. And I want to thank all of the panelists. I want to also let you know that next time, episode 2, we're going to focus on some of the features that buyers are interested in and demanding with new homes. We're going to have special emphasis on smart home. We're going to shoot it in Denver, right next to a big smart home technology event. So we're really excited about episode number 2. I hope episode number 1 was a good one for y'all. And again, thanks to our panelists and to Zillow New Construction for partnering with us on this content.